I think I annoy Rubik's Cubers. People who are really good, I annoy because they're like, I'm better than that guy. How is he getting all this Rubik's attention? I have the weirdest job in the world, and there's only 2 people that do it. Me and my colleague Steve. So like, genuinely, I'm allowed to be rude. I'm allowed to be offensive, and I'm allowed to stop people from playing if they're rude to me. I'm really glad.
It's quite posh there, isn't it?
Selly Oak, I think it was posh, and then no, I think you're thinking of Sully Hull.
I think maybe I am.
Selly Oak is by Birmingham University, and it's kind of cool, but it's so student heavy that, I mean, it's basically fried chicken and clubs. But I was happy for it at the time. They really, really want to work in theatre. They really want to be, in a musical, and they're really like slagging off pantomime. And then all of a sudden you find them in Cinderella, and they're the background just doing dances because it's great cash for the. Everyone sells out just after they slag it off.
Mr. Joshua Cubed, let me just move you down there because it's a bit like, there we go. Oh, you were in the wrong place then. I can't have you in the wrong place. It's a bit like Deck and Ant then. It was all over, but you're in the right place. 997,000 followers. I'm just glad, to be honest, Joshua. I'm glad we've managed to get you on this podcast because as soon as you hit that, you're already verified.
As soon as I hit the mill, you won't hear me again.
And as soon as you hit that 1 million, that I'm fully expecting you to not return my messages, and that's it. I'll have to converse with you through your people and all that kind of stuff.
There'll be layers of people. I want layers and layers of people before you get to me.
Can you just talk us through, from your perspective?
Yeah.
Coming from, I mean, you started on TikTok in January 2020, and now you're on the verge of 1 million followers. Talk us through that.
I think it was pretty crazy, really. I mean, luckily I've always felt, basically, when I found TikTok, I already had Instagram, and I was kind of trying to do some stuff with cubes, but it wasn't really taking off, even though I luckily made a connection with Rubik's that I didn't realize how important that would be. But in fact, it wasn't really happening for me at all until TikTok. And the reason that I found TikTok, I decided to basically throw myself at it, was because TikTok automatically has sound on, right? And that is 100% for me what I think is the most important thing, because I basically just think that my voice is my actual talent. To some degree, I feel like I need to be able to converse to kind of get things across. So at the moment I figured that out, I thought, right, here's a chance to just speak gibberish and things I care about. And I really think that was the magic that made me go, right, TikTok is it. And luckily I walk to work, and I work in central London, so I had these beautiful walks, and I thought, well, on these walks I can think of facts and things I care about. And I just thought, well, TikTok needs educational. Let's use my voice. And I just basically I literally passed Buckingham Palace on the way to work. So I thought, well, I'll explain that little flag that I'm passing as I pass Buckingham Palace. And like those things just started to go, well, actually people want educational stuff. And that was kind of what like drew me in the sense that I kind of just thought, well, this is really working for me. It's really working for me to kind of tell people things that I already know, or even if I don't know, I think it's completely reasonable to just show stuff that you kind of care about. And I became this crazy Londoner walking around with a mug, like you remember me walking around with a mug.
That's how I remember you first. You were walking through central London with a mug of tea, talking about facts and things about England. It was brilliant.
Yeah, the mug was a strange decision, and the decision actually started with this mug, right? Because we went into lockdown, and I decided that I still needed to be out and about because my room is disgusting. Until I had all these cubes, I was like, well, I don't know what to do. I need to be outside. I need lighting. I need all this stuff. And I thought, well, I want to be outside, but it's not quite legal to be outside. So I thought, look, if I have a tea, at least I can infer that I'm just outside my house, which the majority of the time I was, and also it's conversational. It's a bit like this, it's conversational in that style. And I thought, well, that's a good medium to get into. And then as lockdown eased, the first lockdown, I thought, well, this tea has become synonymous with me, really. I've got no choice but to take it out and about. I just thought also the Britishness is a good thing to grasp onto, because for 2 reasons. One, we know Americans love Brits to a degree, and also because I wanted to kind of, I just think that other Brits might be like, oh, I can relax with this guy a little bit. So I think the tea was my real thing. But then I very quickly realized that I couldn't continually make content like this. I couldn't continually think of facts before those facts become other people's facts that aren't good anymore, that aren't fresh anymore, and aren't actually me, that I care about. And the facts kind of, like anyone who's trying to make content out there, you all of a sudden go, oh God, I'm just failing into something. Like I just need to find a way to move this along. So then I just thought, well, let's use let's start using my actual gift, which is these Rubik's cubes and these contacts I've kind of made, and let's just go really crazy. And I do have some gadgets and things. I thought I'll show people some games, and I just thought, you know what, this is a direction. So it became move into gadgets, move into puzzles, move into something that's a bit quirky that I can just explain, as well as doing education on the side. And I think that combination of educational and satisfying puzzle solution was it's kind of at the moment a kind of winning formula, I think, on TikTok.
It certainly 12 months ago, if you'd have said what's your average TikToker, I don't think there's any faces on this podcast that would fit the bill on that one. So talk us through the kind of, what were the big kind of pivotal events in your progression from, let's say, May last year on 50,000 followers to today, I will repeat, on the verge of 1 million followers.
I know. I actually don't know what it's almost like that. I kind of remember them as bigger waves of all of a sudden, here you go, here's a video that popped, and it's almost like they act as almost like knots in a string of memories, like those videos that actually kind of popped, I would say. So the big one, a bigger-ish one that I had was I literally just explained why the Queen doesn't need a number plate. Like, she doesn't need a number plate. It's in her name. She can't break the law. There's no point putting a number plate on her car. It just doesn't have any logic to it. So like that and things like that. So that's the first kind of hurdle. And then you actually kind of have it, that's how I feel like it is. It's a string of weird memories with big videos. You know, when I first realized I could melt metal, I don't know if either of you have seen me melt metal down, but I had this phase where, and I still do it occasionally. In fact, I've got one here.
I do remember that. I vaguely remember that.
So this is actually a TARDIS that I made out of gallium. Gallium is a metal that melts at 30 degrees Celsius right into liquid. So if I hold this for too long, it will melt. So I've got to put it down, right? But my first video ever, so that's kind of like the next string in the line. So it's almost like talk about the Queen. Then I found this thing about melting metal. And then after that, it was about, right, I can actually do other stuff other than just like a fact, a story. And that's almost when that moment pushed me over the edge, and I thought, all right, look, this is the geekiest thing ever. I just made an X-Wing. It was an X-Wing from Star Wars. I made an X-Wing. I thought, this is geeky. This is gadgety to a degree. I thought, well, let's just go into my gadget world and see what happens if I really push this stuff. So I went absolutely mad. And I think I've only been supported by lockdown. If I didn't have a lockdown, my life wouldn't be like this. It's a weird double-edged sword. I'm one of those freaky people that's really gained out of all this awful experience for the rest of the world. I've really gained because I've been forced to just create permanently. And if you just keep going, it just keeps it eventually works. And the final hurdle, I would say, in my kind of journey is when I was asked by Rubik's and Red Bull and TikTok in the middle to do a hosted live, to do one of those featured lives where they put a banner at the top of their TikTok page and they're like, hey, Joshua Cubed is with an athlete from Red Bull, an amazing woman called Ruby, who's an Israeli basketball player. And I just basically had to teach her some Rubik's Cube stuff. And the great thing about that is, you know, that TikTok is watching. You know, physically they're there waiting for it to go wrong, you know, to pull the plug. So that is essentially, if people often want to know how you get the tick, how you got noticed. And I think that moment there, I think they decided that I handled it well enough that they just kind of either gave it to me or Rubik's asked nicely, or I think that was kind of the cusp. I think it was about, and that was it. That's the magic, really. And they're the kind of, I would say they're the three hurdles. 2 videos that make you go, okay, and then TikTok's recognition, and then from then on, I've just been replicating the formula as best I can over and over again, you know, and finding new formulas of the same thing.
It's actually the 1-year anniversary of me posting my first video on TikTok.
Congratulations,
today. So that's why we're in the pub. And again, lockdown for me was just like, without lockdown, I wouldn't be here. And to be honest, my first video went really well. My very first video got 145,000 views in a week. And if that hadn't have happened, honestly, I don't think I'd be here, because I certainly wouldn't be with you two, and certainly I wouldn't be on TikTok even. You mentioned before about the Rubik's ambassador thing. Can you talk us a bit through that? I'm really interested in, you know, what is that? How did it come about? What does it look like?
So I think I was a bit of when I was kind of for a year and a half before TikTok, I was kind of pushing on Instagram to at least try and be do something involved. I wanted to be connected to Rubik's Cubes because, you know, I know them well enough. It's something that I've always had on the side as a background thing that I just kind of do, or a party trick. And I just was showing some stuff on Instagram, and I kept tagging them in it and trying to get their attention. And actually, something happened in my life in terms of theatre. I was very much thinking about leaving theatre completely, like get out. And I was like, what would I do on this earth outside of theatre? Because I can't do a real job. I just can't do a real job. So I was like, what can I do outside of theatre? And I just kind of got this idea that, I would work for Rubik's. That's a company I could sit behind a desk and I could work for Rubik's. I kind of just had this thought that I could do that. So I started kind of hounding them a little bit, being like, if you need people to create stuff for you, and I got an email, and I started just continuously kind of annoying them a little bit. And I don't know if I wasn't annoying them, because I would always step back and leave it a month and try again or something. But I think that eventually I said, look, I can create content for you, and I've got these great ideas. And I luckily got to meet the head of marketing. Essentially, they invited me to come and help them build something massive, 1,600 cubes of Prince Harry's face. It was amazing. And they made me to come and it was beautiful. At the time, he was Prince Harry, and I had to build this giant thing for them, and it got me a good time to kind of chat to them. And eventually, I was lucky enough before I'd even started TikTok, they offered me this position of ambassador, which basically means I create content for them, and they post it, and it could help me grow on Instagram. And I said yes to this, but then all of a sudden, bang, TikTok kind of exploded, and I became incredibly useful to them in lots and lots of ways. And I was being invited in more, and then they were eventually asking me kind of which direction to create content in. And I just got kind of lucky enough that I said, I'll take an ambassador. Sounds like the right role, because I don't want to sound like I completely work for you. I don't want to sound like I completely represent you in every decision. So I can have a drink now and not be like, and not be the face that shouldn't have a drink kind of thing. So I just kind of thought that was a good position to be in, it got basically what also comes with the job is I get a whole bunch of Rubik's cubes, which I thought would be useful as a backdrop, because I told you I was always on the streets with the cube. I was always in the streets with my mug, and it was because of lighting, and it was because of the set. And I actually thought, if you give me enough cubes, I can create a portrait style backdrop that I can continually change, and that's bound to do something for me. So having the support of a brand like that has been completely instrumental in all of my growth, because it means that it slightly justifies what is actually an insane thing that I do. I think I annoy Rubik's Cubers. People who are really good, I annoy, because they're like, I'm better than that guy. How is he getting all this Rubik's attention? I think it should prove to people you don't have to be the best at something to be involved in it. Like, you can find other ways to be the best at it.
And I've also seen you kind of throw one up in the air and it becomes solved.
Yeah.
Is that a skill of yours, or is that a trick cube?
It's a real.
Are you going to get kicked out? I don't want you to get kicked out of the Rubik's circle or whatever it is. But if you're allowed to tell us,
I'm always super glad to tell people it's a real cube. It's a real cube every time. It's always a real cube. People use fake cubes, and there's all sorts of things you can do, and I actually don't have any of that. I don't have any of that stuff.
Gillian says Joshua is so personable and engaging. Is he up for adoption? I have room. So you were saying how your room was horrible. It sounds like there's an offer here.
It does sound like I do need a new room, to be honest. Only if there's. I will not. Here it is. If it hasn't got this kind of roof, which annoyingly stops where I can put Rubik's cubes, then I'm in. Basically, I'm absolutely in. This slanting roof gets in my way all the time. But I'm honoured. Thank you very much. Personable and engaging is all I can aim for. Thank you very much.
Personable and engaging is why you've been on our TikTok quiz twice, and I've asked you to come on here for exactly that reason. Something I'm really interested in, because I know you, as in we've had a number of conversations, and you've been on the quiz a couple of times, so I've virtually spent some time with you. But one thing I haven't got much information on, other than Book of Mormon, is what's your day job? Talk us through your day job. It sounds amazing.
I have the weirdest job in the world, and there's only two people that do it, me and my colleague Steve. So my main job is for the Book of Mormon, and I'm hoping it returns. I genuinely have no idea if they're going to offer me this job back, but it started in America a few years ago when this show exploded and got sold out every day for a decade. It's a big show, the Book of Mormon. But what they do every day as a publicity stunt, essentially, is outside a big tombola. There's a big golden tombola, and then there's me standing there. And my job description is genuinely, I'm allowed to be rude, I'm allowed to be offensive, and I'm allowed to stop people from playing if they're rude to me. So I love this, because that's it. I'm supposed to embody the kind of style of the show, which is that this show is made by the same guy who made the show South Park. So that's the kind of area we're in. We're in abusive. I mean, I'm not abusive, but we're in an area that's definitely touched like touches some dark issues. Somehow it gets through it. But what people do is they write their name on a little leaflet. It's free to play, and then you fold it in half, and then you put it in a big barrel. And then 2 hours exactly before every musical, every night of the show, or the earlier ones too, 2 hours exactly before, I just appear through these doors, and I burst these doors open, and I stand on these steps, and I basically scream and shout and make a noise, and I pull out names, and if your name comes out, you get 2 tickets in the front row that night for £20, whereas the row behind you is paying 150, 160. I'm not trying to plug the show, guys, by the way. I'm not trying to plug it in any way, because I don't even know if I'm going back.
Go ahead, plug away. It's not TV, you can do what you like.
Yeah, it's not TV. But I love that job, because that job is fairly short, as in I only actually need to go in for an hour and a bit a day if it's just one show. And I just get to show off and meet people for a living. I mean, obviously it means that I'm sometimes just out on the street in the freezing cold in February and nobody wants to play my stupid game. But in the summer, and all these Americans fly in and people from Thailand and all sorts of things. And we get to about 200 people in the street, 300 people sometimes. And I have to and it becomes really fun. So my job is my job is to read out names, and I just fail at every single one of them. And I get laughs and all sorts of stuff, but I adore my job. And I think it kind of, it's sort of in the same vein as why I'm okay at TikTok. I have no fear of just screaming and making a fuss and playing with words. I have no problem with just being an idiot, really. And I adore that job, and I really hope I get to go back to it. I've had the luck of kind of weirdly, I get to tour with a show, but just go for a couple of days, show up, do a few minutes of bonkersness, not do a real show, no one can tell me off, and then go home again. I really have quite an easy. I was very lucky to get this job. I was very lucky to get that job.
I've got a blue room. I'm an official TikToker, but also because we're in a pub, if I press this button, I can go.
Oh,
I can go disco.
Disco's begun.
We have one here from Keith, who is one of our TikTok regulars. He says, "What's Joshua's favorite historical place in London?"
Tricky one. That is interesting, because. It's a good question. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. That is a good one. It's a tricky one in many ways. I think the answer is twofold. Sorry. As with most things in the world,
I thought it would be.
I can't. It's always too many layers. But I have to say that I love Buckingham Palace so much. I love Buckingham Palace. I don't know what it is. I'm not the biggest. I like the royal family, but I'm not a full royalist or anything. But when I've been around that palace, and I've been around it twice, every time I've been like, this is amazing. This is mind-blowingly amazing. And I get all nostalgic, and I get a little bit teary, and I think, why am I so teary about this beautiful palace? So that is actually, if you want me to get my standard answer, that is my standard answer, is Buckingham Palace. I adore that place, and when it's open, it's just so cool. It's just so cool. But my actual answer for what I feel is about theatre. And it's because I worked in a theatre for 8 years in one theatre, and this theatre was built as a love letter to a woman. It's called Wyndham's Theatre, and it was literally built by a man called Sir Charles Wyndham, right? And he was on stage an actor, and he owned it, and he was a lord, and he writes stuff. Like, this is just a guy who wants to do everything. But he had a mistress, and his mistress was also a lady from another person. So that he built this theatre for her. Everyone in society knew they were sleeping together, and he built this theatre. So all around this theatre, there's symbols of both of them, her and him, everywhere. In fact, there's 2 urns when you walk in that are him and her. And this theatre is it's so quirky and so beautiful, and I know it more than I know anything in the world, any place on earth, because I know the back corridors to sneak around when you want to run away from someone, and I know the hiding place you'd go if there was a attack or something. That theatre is like riddled with history as a listed building, and that theatre is like one of my favorite places on earth.
You were talking about Buckingham Palace. My 13-year-old daughter earlier today said, it must be a pain living in a house that big, because imagine if she's gone to bed and she wants something from the kitchen. It'll take her ages to get there. I was like, she's never been in her kitchen.
Or got us to have a sandwich.
Did you go to musical theatre school?
Okay, yeah, a good one. So when people are, I went to a drama school, an accredited drama school, and we do. So all the dramas, there's loads of drama schools. There's probably like 10 proper accredited drama schools, including the big ones you've heard of, like RADA and another one called Lambda. But I when I was 18, I auditioned for all of them. I auditioned mostly for straight acting, because I decided that I wasn't good enough at singing. So even though I prefer musicals, I honestly prefer musicals, I thought I wasn't good enough. So I just decided, let's do acting. And I went to what is now called the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire, which is Birmingham, basically. And I went to there because I actually lived in Selly Oak, which is a place where my parents lived at the exact same age as me, the road down. So I was like, this is fate. I've got to go there. I've got to go there. And I'm really glad.
It's quite posh there, isn't it?
Selly Oak, I think it was posh. And then you're thinking of Solihull.
I am.
Selly Oak is by Birmingham University, and it's kind of cool, but it's so student heavy that, I mean, it's basically fried chicken and clubs, but I was happy for it at the time.
Sounds like heaven.
So I went to a drama school. We did straight acting, but it was 9 till 6, Monday to Friday, super intense every day for 3 years. And we did so much musical theatre, that that's why I kind of now I just sing and do stuff, because they kind of made me sing and dance. And I was like, okay, so now I'm more than happy to sing, as you've probably seen before, maybe. But like everything I do, I basically try and get to a level where I'm happy with the skill, and then I abandon that skill.
Okay.
And in fact, Rubik's Cubing is the same. I haven't got any better in a couple of years. Like, I haven't got any better with Rubik's Cube. But the piano, a few years ago, I decided to just teach myself chords, basic chords, the same way a guitarist might just, let it be perfectly, a few chords, nice and simple. And I taught myself that. And I thought, well, let's try. So basically, you're seeing me do the same thing over and over again, where I just read a chord above some lyrics, and then I sing it as best I can.
Joshua, from what I know of you, I don't believe for a minute you can't play the Star Wars theme.
Yeah.
I actually can't, I could probably guess. I can guess, but I can't.
Wait, that'd take me about 4 hours to get that far. Come on. Apart from Book of Mormon, what's your favourite West End show?
Thank you for putting the words apart from the Book of Mormon, so I don't have to slag it off, because I do work there. So I'm gonna go with, it's a trick. You know what? I'm gonna be a bit dull. I'm gonna go with the Phantom of the Opera. And you know what? Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says that in the theatre world, because they're like, ugh, it's been around for so many years. Oh, it's so old. But I love the Phantom of the Opera. I think it has a darkness and a creepiness, and it's set in a theatre, and that becomes the theatre that you're in. Like, I think there's just an atmosphere, and I just think it's great. And once, I'm going to tell you the truth here, I once kissed someone that played Christine Daae. So because I kissed the main girl in Phantom of the Opera, I feel like that's tick bucket list.
Obliged now. That's it. Obliged. But that sounds like the, when like you get into a band, and then they get you get some people who get into a band, and then once they get commercially successful, they go, "Oh, I'm not listening to them anymore now." It's like, I listened to them when they were cool.
They've sold out.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like there's an element of that in the theatre world from what you're saying. It's like, I remember Phantom of the Opera before it was even written. Do you know?
But I was the only one watching it. Yeah.
And I love it because everyone in theatre, it's the same thing as almost any industry, but theatre is, I would say, exaggerated, because all these people really want a job. They really, really want to work in theatre. They really want to be, in a musical, and they're really slagging off pantomime. And then all of a sudden you find them in Cinderella, and they're the background just doing dances because it's great cash for everyone sells out just after they slag it off. And Phantom of the Opera is considered like an old piece of, it was the 80s boom in theatre. But it's still fantastic, and it's, I think, it's the same kind of thing. Once you're in it, once it's been too long and you're in the industry, you just kind of end up slagging off the old ones. But that's because they're on every day and they're still selling out. It's a brilliant show. Wait, so how does it work? Do we all answer these questions? Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, sure.
We don't know, Joshua. Come on, it's this is episode 3. We haven't got a clue what's going on yet.
I'm glad I'm here early. I wanted to be here early.
Yeah, exactly. So do you know what? When this is like we said this last week, when this has got 10 million viewers every time, you'll be able to go, do you know what? I don't like that lockdown locking anymore. I liked it when it was good. Right at the start. Do you know what I mean?
Look at them.
Oh, look at them now, with their, with their multi-million-pound advertising deals. No, it was good when it was. It was good when it was pure. It was good when it was pure, and they were just doing it because they enjoyed it.
I got reported for the word tantalising once. And I got banned from live for 24 hours for the word tantalising, which I've used since multiple times to prove that the word tantalising is nothing. It's just a tease.
Mate, now you've got a blue tick on TikTok. It's like, you can do what you like.
True.
Me and my wife have been together 19 years, and I told my wife, probably the day we met, that when I'm old enough I'm going to grow a massive, round, white beard because you just look so friendly. And and who doesn't want to look like a friendly old man? I'm not suggesting you are a friendly old man. You're just an old man.
Yeah, I'm not friendly at all.
So I immediately met Bill Clinton and pissed him off within about 15 seconds.
I can imagine you.
That's quite an achievement, isn't it? Joshua, you are literally, you're literally 20,000 followers off turning into that prick. That celebrity who hates the general public and can't be arsed with them.
If we ever do this again,
I can't wait to be that person. Let it said now. I can't wait to be that person so famous. I don't need to talk to you.
If we ever do this again, Mike will be going, right, Josh has said we're not allowed to look him in the eye. We have to
look away from the camera.
Yeah, we have to refer to him in the third person.
So this is the one that I usually do because everyone likes this one. I just choose a colour. Like I choose green, for example, and I show you the green side, and then I'm just going to blow on it briefly, and it comes back sold.
That's incredible.
And
that's incredible.
and as you know, that is a real cube. I'm always using a real cube because otherwise no one believes me.
Joshua, I would consider us friends, but I'm not being funny. When I see you, I am going to burn you because you're clearly a witch.
I'm exactly that. I'm a witch. I'm using my witch powers to gain followers.
Kill him with fire.
Here we go. Would you rather have 3 kids and no money or no kids and $3 million? I'll go first. I've got 3 kids and no money. So I'd rather have no kids and $3 million.
I would also definitely take the 3 million quid and buy a child out of somewhere if I had.
I was going to say, it works for Angelina Jolie, right?
It worked for her.
And on that bombshell, I think that feels in an Alan Partridge style. I think on that bombshell.
I'm glad that's
about buying children. I think now after 1 hour and 40 minutes of our 60-minute podcast, I think now is a good time to say thank you so much to everyone who contributed in the comments section. Thank you very much for your input. Thanks as always to Baz, and thanks so much to Joshua there he is down there. Thank you so much to Joshua for joining us. It was brilliant. It was fascinating. It was everything that I hoped it would be. In 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have you back on the quiz, and we'll see you again soon.